Americans when we want money to stay in the U.S.? We're sending it to the Vatican? I
That's
don't
stupid.
care if the Pope is American. He's in Italy. He's not here. I hope they got their money back.
What about if like for anybody's family descendants that were victims of the original sin, what about being tax exempt for the next, like, for 15 to 20 years, just tax exempt?
Wouldn't be a good thing though, Julie, because a lot of people get money back at the end of the year, and you don't get money back if you're exempt. Be excluded from that child tax credit and a lot of other shit.
But you don't think that we the people, need to make a penance for the horrible actions that have happened to
Okay,
human
I am
beings
back.
in our country?
I am back. So SKS, do black people deserve reparations for Jim Crow mass incarceration and segregation? Yes or no?
Do I wait, okay, so for like all of history of the United States?
Yes. Do we deserve reparations for mass incarceration, segregation, and redlining as well?
I don't know if that's possible. It would be nice, but I don't think it's possible.
Why would it not be possible?
Because there would be too many people that would be, it's basically saying, admitting that our country has failed. And it has on many levels, but we either try to do better. I believe in the unpaid labor of reparations. I do believe that, like, Seneca Village family descendants deserve to be taken care of properly for the property that was taken. However, to try to utilize like the penal system, there's too many individuals of all different ethnic backgrounds that could say that they were wrongly incarcerated.
Okay, well, they can advocate for that and they can get their reparations. There's no such thing as too many. Maybe
To be able to get it, we need
maybe
to
we should just
agree.
maybe we should just commit less racisms, and then there would be less people wanting the wrongs to be righted for the racisms.
Hey, yo, P, let me ask you a question. Correct me if I'm wrong. Because what it sounds like to me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you just feel like if all black people have any wrong situation, if you were wronged in any case, you deserve reparations.
Yes,
All right, so how you feel about the Irish? Do they deserve
the
reparations?
Irish are not the topic.
No, but I'm just asking, though. It don't have to be a topic. Jail wasn't the topic, and I brought
Jail
it
is part of the topic. We're talking about reparations, and part of the reparations is
Oh, well,
for the
I'm just
Americans
asking on the side then.
from black people.
I get it. I get you don't want to answer that because you're gonna feel like you're contradicting your whole.
No, it's
pro-black-
not. It's not contradicting. I never said that Irish people are not
Do you
deserving
feel
of
like
reparations.
so do you feel like the Irish deserve reparations?
Okay, they're not the topic.
I'm just asking a question, bro.
Oh,
Them-
they do not from the U.S. They should get it from Ireland.
They would
But
they
in the
would
US,
still
they were
they would still be
discriminated. They
deserving
faced
of
discrimination in the
reparations
US.
here. They were indentured servitudes. They were indentured
but I'm
service
not
in the
even talking
U.S.,
about
so
the
they would
business
be
world.
getting
I'm
it
talking
from
about
there.
because that's what.
But they're not the topic. So I'm not talking about Irish people.
Yeah,
They
bro.
should. If you want to advocate for Irish people, go talk to the Irish people and ask them about how they feel about their community and getting their reparations. They're not the topic here.
All right, but I'm just asking you, do you feel like they deserve it? Not just from
Okay.
being oppressed.
How about you just
Oh, he don't want to answer. All right, you
Ron?
got to keep the pro-black thing going. All right, I'll let you rock. I'll keep it moving.
Okay, so Ron, let's
You
get your
can't talk
age
in
and
the
race,
comments when you got up
please.
here and lied to
I
these
already
people
answered
like
your
I'm third.
question. I already answered your
You didn't
question,
answer
man.
it.
I
Ron, you
didn't
owe
answer
her
it. You were just too busy
$500, Ron.
talking,
We
so you
got the
didn't hear me
tape.
answer.
You about to lie, Ron?
You were just too busy talking, so you didn't
I'm talking
hear
about Ron.
me.
Ron, you owe my man $500. We got the tape. You gonna lie? Lie,
I'm
so
not
we can put
lying.
that tape out. Lie, Ron,
Nobody's
so we can put that tape
lying.
out. I'm
I
talking
already
about
answered the
Ron,
question.
not you, sir. I'm talking about
Tape
Ron.
out.
Ron,
Okay,
27
Ron, let's
black.
get your age and race,
27
please.
black.
You said what?
27 and black.
you on
Okay,
your
what are your
side.
thoughts
You
on
don't
the
gotta ask
topic?
for no question. He dumb like you. Ron, you owe my man $500.
What?
Intero.
What are you
Ron,
talking
you owe my
about?
man $400,
Can you go on
man.
mute while I'm talking to Ron?
All right.
Thanks. Now, what are your thoughts on the topic?
I believe black Americans do deserve reparations.
Okay. And apparently Santoro disagrees with you. Why do you disagree with Ron?
I told you why I disagree with Ron. I got to tell Ron why I disagree with him.
Yes.
All right, well, I feel like you're not a product of none of that shit, Ron. You can't tell me where none of the plantations was. You can't tell me a day of labor over there. You can't tell me what a whip looked like. You can't tell me none of that shit. So you don't deserve nothing. And you don't even know. You don't even know if your ancestor was in slavery. How would you? What if
Oh.
you chase? What if you chase your lineage and it just so happened that one of your ancestors was actually a slave owner, Ron?
That's actually true.
You still
How do you
deserve
know? How do you
reparation?
know that information?
That's actually true, though.
I don't know. That's what I'm
Santoro?
saying. How much?
Santoro, but
What
that's
if you found
actually
that out?
true. If I trace my lineage, one of my ancestors on my mother's side was a slave owner.
Oh,
How's that possible,
I mean, it's
Ron?
called. I mean, it's
you
called
still
the
deserve
grape.
reparations,
It's
right,
called the
Pete?
graping and it's called the graping and
No,
unaliving of enslaved people.
I don't necessarily the
And he
thing
know
that
that because he was there, right, Pete?
I mean, my
It was the family that
ancestors
they
were.
bought, right?
I mean, my ancestors were enslaved. So
It was the family that they bought, right? How could you tell though? Like, how could you? How you know that?
how would I know?
Yeah.
Because I'm very closely tied to my ancestry. My family still lives on the plantation we were enslaved on, and we have an entire museum in our town dedicated to our enslaved ancestors with the original artifacts and pieces that they had to use while they were enslaved to teach each other how to read and to how to navigate out of slavery. These are
All
things
that
that
sounded
these are
good.
Wait,
these are
hold
things
up.
these are things that my family has that we're still closely tied to. My great grandparents are still alive and are able to pass on messages from our enslaved
Nobody
ancestors.
I have a
communicates with
question. I
them.
have a question, Lady P.
So just because you may not have that lineage or that
You don't have
tie
no
to
lineage,
your
bro. You
lineage,
ain't do no
just
DNA test,
because
bro.
I don't have to do a DNA test. My people are still on the
They
plantation,
not
babe.
still alive from the
We're
18.
still on the
Wait,
plantation. I don't have to do a DNA test for shit
How you know that?
because
can I
my people are
ask her
still on the
one?
plantation.
Lady P, can I ask you a question?
I know my
How
ancestors. Fuck y'all talking
how
No, you
about.
is it?
don't.
Can I please ask her a question? So
What's
are
the
you telling?
question?
It's a he.
You're saying that your family still lives on the plantation where they were enslaved in. Does that mean that they inherited it at one
Yes,
point?
once the yes, because after the emancipation died, what happened with a lot of black people that after the emancipation was they just did not leave because they had nowhere to go because after emancipation they didn't get shit. So my ancestors stayed on the plantation, and then after the master died, they went ahead and gave the land to my ancestors
Well,
Can I
that's
because
kind of. I feel
can I
because
like
ask
some of your ancestors got
because they were on
reparations.
the plantation after the
Oh,
That's a
emancipation.
form of reparation, Lady
That's
damn,
P.
that
but
really is. Literally is.
but this is not the reality for many black people. Many black people stayed on their plantations and just died and didn't
in
get
regards
shit.
But
to
now you're saying that you still are owed more
I'm not
reparations.
talking about myself.
Okay,
I'm
sorry.
talking about black people. And I'm not talking about myself getting reparations for slavery. And if I did, then what? Because the American government still facilitated this, and the American government is still responsible. But I'm talking about black people who are descendants of American chattel slavery, many of whom are relying on these programs that we now have in order to trace their lineage, and many of whom didn't get shit. Like when we talk, like I said the only thing that was common was for people to stay on the plantation. It was not common for those people who stayed on the plantation to inherit said plantation. That was not common, and that is why I'm saying that you don't know what people have with Santora. You don't know what they have or what lineage that they are aware of because you didn't know that I was this closely tied to my ancestry and that I knew who the fuck my ancestors were
I think he
because
was
we never
tied to a
fucking
lie
left.
because you can't tell if they was
can
your
I ask a
relatives or
question?
not.
Yes, the fuck I can. Go ahead,
They
Ron.
ain't had no DNA back then.
In
Stop it.
regard, hold on.
I don't. Why would I have to need DNA if we
Stop
never
it.
fucking left and this same group of people is here and the same group of people keeps making fucking babies? Why the fuck would I need? Do you need a DNA test to know your granny is your granny? No, you don't actually.
You actually do.
Because you know who your parent.
You
'Cause you know,
actually do.
no, you don't because you know.
Yes, you
No,
do.
you don't because via maternal lineage.
Do.
No, you don't because via maternal lineage, you
We
know who your.
know.
You do not need a DNA test for maternal
We
lineage.
know.
You don't
How
need
many
a
people
DNA
you
test for maternal
know?
lineage,
No
okay?
God, right
You think,
now. You just clocked out
If your
hold on,
mom
Santoro,
pushed you out,
Santoro.
hold on, Ron, hold
24
on. I'll get all
years
these
is not
questions. Don't
his.
worry.
Yes, you do.
Don't worry. I ain't never minded. Never minded.
I ain't listening to
Right. So as far as maternal lineage, you don't need a DNA test for maternal lineage. You don't need that, right? Because you know who your mom is because she pushed you out her cooter, right? And then your granny pushed your mom out of her cooter, and then her mom pushed her out of her cooter. So you don't need a DNA test to know this. You don't. This is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Let's start using our common sense here in this conversation. Y'all, we are at 24.3K tabs. We need to be at 40K tabs. Let's get to 40K tabs, please, and thank you. If we're not at 30K in the next 5 minutes, the comments will get cut off. I don't mind cutting the comments off in the next 5 minutes if we're not at 30K. My moderators are in here, and they will cut these comments the fuck off. So let's make sure that we are, in fact, vigorously tapping that screen and that we are sharing the live and doing the things that we need to do. The goal is 45K right now. Let's get to 30K. Let's also support the Venmo goal. I'm doing a 1v3 right now, and it's kind of rough. So let's make sure. Right, I do see that you're the only person liking the live, and that's a problem. If we're not all liking the live, the comments will get cut off, babe. So let's not let Kareem go here, get out here in vain. Thank you.
Go to my job, Nairo. I got a good job and I got YO. So call
Okay,
to
you talking to Nairo?
never happened,
Yeah, I'm
Nairo.
talking on
It
the
never
panel.
happened. What's the question you want to ask me, Ron?
I didn't want to ask you. I want to ask Lady P. Lady
What's the
P,
question?
in regards to reparations for those mass, you said reparations for mass incarceration.
Yes.
I don't know if I can agree with that
Why not?
because we would have to have a cap on a date because I don't think mass incarceration is a real thing that's still actively going
You don't
on.
think that's a real thing?
I don't believe that the government is currently conspiring to mass incarcerate black people right now. I don't believe that.
Okay, so black people who are 13% of the population, 27% of arrests per the FBI, and 38% of the prison population per the Bureau of Prisons, and then 54% of exonerations per the National Registry of Exonerations. There's no mass incarceration going on, even though the number one reason for exoneration is false identification. There's no mass incarceration happening to black people, which has resulted in us being overrepresented at each step along the way in the legal system.
I don't believe that. Even with all those numbers, I don't believe that.
You don't believe that? So how? So please explain the existence of these numbers.
So the hold on.
Because y'all both right. Y'all both right. I just want to just clear it up and then y'all could go.
So
How are you gonna clear something up?
go ahead and clear it up.
My bad, go ahead. What Ron is probably trying to say is it's not targeted towards black. Y'all running around like a jungle, ain't got nothing to do with y'all not being targeted. So
Jungle.
y'all getting locked up at a rate, and it's going to be called mass incarceration.
I mean, you're considered part of that.
Percentage y'all going on. But I think what Ron is trying to say is y'all not being targeted.
How are we? What? What the fuck? This
If
is
you
why
13% and y'all going to jail
You
or
go on
crazy,
mute. You go on mute.
You're part of that.
You go on mute and
13%
you hush and you wait. Go now, Ron. What's your argument against what I'm saying?
I was saying, due to the parameters of the communities that a large, predominantly black Americans live in, or black people in general, people of black race, it's overly policed. I give you that. But within those areas that is overly policed, there is a production of a crime rate.
But if we're talking about over policing, but if we know that over policing is happening, what do you think is going to happen when a community is over policed?
It's going to lead to false arrest.
It's going to lead to false arrest, but also what else?
That's the only thing I can see is false arrest.
So it's going to lead to more arrests per the crime that's happening. So when you have less officers that are tracking the crime in neighborhoods, there's going to be less arrests per crime that's happening because crime is happening that is going without oversight. However, when you have overseers all around the damn joint, they're going to see every little thing that's happening. They're going to arrest people that are committing crime, and they're going to arrest people that they just think are committing crime, but they're not actually doing so. Whereas not what happened when there are no cops in the area, and that's the difference between a white neighborhood and a black neighborhood, and that's going to be the difference between white arrests and black arrests, and then the white population in prison versus the black population in prison, right?
I would agree, but when we look at the crimes that are committed, and I'm only talking, I cannot speak from a rural area perspective in regards to like the black communities in rural areas and versus I come from a large city. I'm in Los Angeles, right?
Okay, I come from a large city too.
So when I look at the city of South Central in comparison to a city like North Santa Monica or the Valley, the crime that is being committed
South
in
Central, child, it's drug crimes. Well, it's drug crimes all throughout Santa Monica. It's drug crimes happening all throughout Venice. It's drug crimes
yeah, but
happening all
that's not a real
throughout them
crime.
places.
But those aren't considered crimes anymore in the city of Los
Yes, it
Angeles.
is, because it's not Swede. It's not that. It is hard rugs
Yeah,
going
and
on
that
out there.
possession is not even a felony offense anymore.
It's still a
That
crime.
stuff.
Possession of those hard rugs, that's crime, babe.
But you have to have you have to be a violator for the police to be able to walk up to you and just check you
What?
and
No,
stuff
you
like
don't.
that. You have rights. The police just can't walk up to you and be like, "Let me search you."
Yes, the hell that they do.
They do in our communities, but
Yeah, they do it. They
can't.
do it in South Central.
But they're not gonna do it over there because those people have the finances for attorneys.
Right, and that's a problem. You don't see those. You don't see these issues. You don't
Yeah, I
see,
have a problem.
like,
I
you're
have a problem with
noticing
bad
all of these
policing.
disparities, but somehow we can notice every single disparity. We can notice the over policing of black neighborhoods. We can notice the economical differences between these predominantly white neighborhoods and black neighborhoods. We can notice the differences in rate of convictions per arrest. We can notice the differences in prison population. We can notice all these different things, but somehow black people are not being targeted to be put in prison, specifically. Somehow.
Nah, I can't. Not in the big.
How can you not do that when you have all the facts in front of you? That's just willful
in the
ignorance at that
in the
point.
big 2025, where I would say the only issue we have as black people right now is the economic wealth gap because it's no longer a knowledge
No,
gap.
it's no longer a knowledge gap.
I don't think there's a knowledge gap anymore.
So
In
we
2025,
just ignoring stuff.
I don't believe there's a knowledge gap. I believe we have surpassed that. I believe that Gen Z, especially Gen Z, according to the Matrix, have far surpassed the things that the other
Okay, yeah.
generations
So we
of
just
black
so we're just ignoring all of the facts so that we can keep our opinions. Got it. AP, go ahead.
Okay, so I do study criminal justice. And you were mentioning how the police can't just walk up on a person and just search them. Although that is legally right, that doesn't mean that morally every police officer follows that code. It is so easy to just walk up to someone and be like, I smell this substance here. I'm going to search you. It is so easy to abuse the what's it called? The five senses search, which is like if you see something, you smell something, if you feel something, etc. Those things can be easily abused. So it's so easy to walk up to someone and be like, oh, well, I see a trash bag in the back of your car. I think that it's a unalived person. I got to search you now. So, it's not as easy as you think it is, or it's not as like free as you think it is. A lot of people do abuse that system. As for mass incarceration, I did study on the ethics of mass incarceration or privatized prisons. And it is like a fact that privatized prisons are indeed business models for these people. My iPad is dead, so I cannot bring up the screenshot right now. Or, oh yeah, maybe I can. But basically, that is one of the ethical dilemmas in the criminal justice system, is that people tend to see privatized prisons as businesses, and they basically have to purposefully lock people up in order to keep that business running because they get paid a lot of money per inmate. And on top of that, those inmates can be used for cheap labor for the state or for the federal government.
I agree with that. I'm not a pro for private prisons. I don't believe anybody should own a private prison. But like I was saying, it doesn't stop Stein
What,
5.
you're against private
Bro,
prisons?
yeah, I'm against. Hell yeah! What the fuck? We should have more colleges than prisons. We should have more institutions than prisons. We don't have in the state. I'm in the state of California. We have more prisons than we have colleges, and the majority of our prisoners, a lot of our prisons are so overpopulated that now we have created a system where we're sending our prisoners to Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, to these private prisons that exist now. Yeah,
Okay, so 8%. So 8% of people in prison are in fact in private prisons, and that's roughly 90,000 people that are in private prisons today.
yeah, I'm not a fan of private prisons at all.
That's that in private prisons also participate in slave labor. So
But
we and let's look at the racial demographics of people in private prisons.
in regards to what you were saying on AP, like I said, I can only speak for Los Angeles, right? If they smell what you talking about, they smelling, they not. That doesn't.
Black people have a
Black
black people have a higher likelihood of being placed in private prisons than white people, of course, as we already know. So they're more likely to end up in a private prison than any other racial demographic, being subject to slave labor in private prisons. Who would have known?
Yo, hold on. What? Hold on. Repeat what you just said.
That black people are more likely to end up in a private prison than any other racial demographic.
Oh yeah.
Which is going to put them at property of the prison owner, and that is going to subject them to slave labor. So
pretty common sense.
Come up, I was so motherfucking mad.
what's common sense?
No, I'm talking to Centuro in regards to him trying to question that. It's not even something.
Yo, Ron. I know you soft and you scared of this. You scared of Mr. P or whatever. So
I
you
mean,
trying to.
obviously,
I'm not the nigga you want to do that with, though,
obviously
Ron. Don't
we disagree.
use me
No, Centuro,
to
we
get on
obviously
P good
disagree,
side.
though. We disagree. I don't believe that mass incarceration
Like,
to
don't
constitute
do that, bro.
reparations. I don't
Common
believe
sense.
that.
Like, don't be condescending with me because you want to get on this nigga good side, bro.
I don't believe reparations should be given to people.
Who on my good side? Who on my good side? Quite frankly, because T-Bone been on mute. Quite frankly, it's a 1v3 right now, and AP is just coming up for backup support. But quite frankly, it's a 1v3. So I don't need I don't need nobody on my good side because it don't never gave that.
You are not built like that.
I have been, I am, and I've been doing it this whole time that I've been on live. Fuck you, mean. Anywho.
I just don't believe in finding excuses for motherfuckers to be out here committing crime, and giving them reparations is a cop out. These in the year 2025, these young black men who out here committing these crimes, they know they not supposed to be committing these crimes because they know what constitutes what they do when they decide to join these gangs and shit. Like they know what's the life that's gonna end up. They're gonna end up in prison or jail or dead. Or
okay, well, let's watch our mouth. Thank you.
Yeah, unalive. My apologies, but
Lady P. So okay, because like I said, I'm pro reparations for slavery and Jim Crow, not everything else. What else is on the list besides for the prison system?
I already listed what else is on the list. So it is redlining. It is redlining inequitable access to education as well as medical racism.
I don't believe in the redlining one either.
You don't believe in reparations for redlining?
Because if you're redlining today, you're gonna get a $100 million check.
Whoa!
The black man, if he's redlined by Wells Fargo,
Do you have a sword?
It don't need it, yo, bro.
Do you have a source for this? Like, do you have a source for redlining?
I think you're far. If you're putting wait, hold up. If you're putting red lining in there, 1 second. If you're putting red lining in there and you're putting, well, what else did you say? I feel like, I mean, these are like lawsuits.
He said a lot. That's why I want you to repeat it.
It's not reparations. It's lawsuits. I mean, then you would have to
that is a lawsuit. Redlining is a lawsuit.
That would mean everybody.
They don't have to. They should. It doesn't have to be a lawsuit for redlining.
So what you're saying, putting all of this stuff in there would mean giving reparations to anyone and anyone for any injustice.
What's wrong with that? Maybe I should.
Yeah,
Maybe I should
exactly.
less injustices.
He's on government assistance.
Maybe if we can make
Every black American was not
maybe
a
if we
victim.
can make less
mindset. This
injustices.
nigga's a bum, bro.
Hold
This
on,
nigga's
every
a
black
bum.
American was not a victim to redlining though.
Nobody said everybody was.
You're gonna find all the cases about people in the past.
What's in the past?
No, I'm saying in the
That is in the past.
redlining.
Redline, that was in the past.
Redlining is not in the past. Redlining
When it wasn't against the law. When it wasn't against the law. Yes, that's in
Redlining
the
still
past.
happens today. So
What you gonna bring up? The Wells Fargo case? Don't bring that up again.
it's not just Wells Fargo. It's not just Wells Fargo. It's maybe
It
federal.
does-
Don't bring that
it
up
does
again.
It's
happen.
maybe federal, Citibank, as well as
I'm sure
Navy
sure
Federal. That's what I thought
redlining.
you was gonna bring up. Navy Federal.
I'm
Second.
sure.
Yo, bro, do you
It's
know the
not just
details of that
redlining.
Navy Federal case, bro?
Guys, can I please say something?
I don't know why we're all talking at the same
I
time.
really wish you would understand.
You said you do your 3v1s, right?
But yeah, but the 3v1 doesn't mean everybody talk at the same time. The 3v1 means that I argue against three people. Doesn't mean that three people talk to me at the same time. Y'all can't make an argument that way.
Can I go next since I'm the only woman on the panel? Well, you too, but you know
I'm not a woman.
Well, whatever. Sorry. What I mean is, reparations for slavery, absolutely deserved, 100%. Jim Crow, absolutely. Redlining, the prison system. What was the other thing? These three other things that you mentioned. There are systems in place where people when you get exonerated. I know not everyone, but there are things, lawsuits. It just doesn't go in the category of reparations.
So
It just
so we
doesn't go in
can
there.
so we can go ahead and look at the first town to pass reparations in America. The first town in America to pass reparations was in 2021. It was the city of Evanston, Illinois. And if y'all want to support them, you can go ahead and donate as well. But their reparations was actually passed for redlining. Oh, who would have known? So the town of Evanston, Illinois, has dispersed over $2.5 million in reparations to their Black residents who are the direct descendants or were the actual victims of redlining in Evanston, Illinois prior to 1969. So if you are a descendant of somebody who lived in Evanston, Illinois prior to 1969, or you are a direct descendant of somebody who was in Illinois prior to 1969, then you will be getting reparations for redlining. This is a $25,000 cash payment or a $25,000 deposit for a new home, or $400,000 in renovations for the home that you currently live in.
Lady P, you sound like
this
that
is to create equitable home ownership for Black people in the city of Evanston.
What's
You
the
sound
population
like
of
the
this
lawyer.
city?
1 second, Lady P, you're doing like that lawyer commercial thing where they're saying, if this happens to you, call us, we'll get you money. Are you?
Okay, well that's what it is.
Oh my God, Lady P, please.
What? That's what it is. Reparations.
Bill,
It doesn't go into the category of reparations.
Yes,
Yo,
it
just go
does.
file
This is
a
not a
PPP or
lawsuit.
something,
This
my
isn't a
nigga.
lawsuit.
Let's go
This
do
is not a
PPP or something,
lawsuit.
bro.
This is something that the city of Evanston, Illinois, they talked about, they discussed, and then they decided that this is what we're going to do, and then they began dispersing these things. It wasn't a lawsuit. It's not a lawsuit.
Okay, but this is what I don't understand and why I think this government is a little cuckoo. The thing that pisses me off is we've paid reparations to the Japanese, we've paid reparations for this, we've paid for this, we've paid for that. But like the biggest issue, the biggest thing that's the worst thing in this country's history, they haven't even implemented or done anything.
Because why would they?
Right.
Why wouldn't you? It's the biggest tragedy. It's
American government does not like black people. We have established that already.
It's not a tragedy to white people.
They don't care about that, man.
Okay, Sleepy Wonder, can I get your age and race, please?
29. I'll be 30 this year. And Black.
Okay, your thoughts on the topic. Y'all, the
Yes,
Venmo goal
we
is
do.
not. Y'all, the Venmo goal is not moving enough for me. Let's go ahead and make sure that we're moving that Venmo goal, please and thank you. We're not at 30K test. The comments are finna get shut off.
Yeah, help this
Oh, yeah.
panhandle.
We need to get the 30K test to get the comments on. The goal is right now is 40K taps. Thank you.
Yeah, I do agree that black people deserve reparations. I'm actually curious why folks on the panel don't think that redlining falls into the reparations category. Like, if we look at history and the way that black people have been forced into neighborhoods, denied economic benefits, and then redlining is used as another tool to continue to deny them economic benefits. If we can trace that line all the way back to slavery and racism and oppression, why wouldn't black people deserve reparations
Because
based
there's
on that?
because you there's lawsuits. It's I don't see it as a category of reparations observant. I'm sorry, I don't see it that way.
Yeah, so can you tell me why, if I can draw a direct line between
Because
racism, slavery, and oppression to redlining, where in that line the break happens?
I,
because first of all, there was no slavery when it comes to redlining. And if
What?
you
No,
did,
no,
It
no, no,
wasn't
no,
the
no,
there
no.
slavery.
So
was
It
still
let's
became the
slavery.
redlining.
There was
so
still
let's let's
slavery.
let's let's
no,
back
I'm
up a
sorry,
step.
with
Let's
redlining,
let's let's back up a
you
step.
can't
You
I
would
want to hear how he
agree.
gonna get
you
creative.
can't compare
Let's see his
slavery to
creative way.
redlining.
No, but he gonna get
Redlining.
No, but
creative.
let's
Okay,
let's
let him
let's back
engage
up.
with Bill. Let him engage with Bill.
He's
It's
one
too
of them
much over
blinkies that know a
talking.
little something. He gonna try to
So Santoro,
conflate
can
the two.
I finish what I'm saying, or do you want to continue to overtalk me?
I want to continue to say what I was saying. I said I want to
Well,
see how.
Yeah,
yeah,
so
actually, you
I
should
was
go on mute because
speaking.
you weren't
So do you want to
talking.
continue to overtalk me and be rude, or do you want to hear my argument and then respond to it?
Just go, bro.
Wait, I
Thank
said
you. I really appreciate that.
Just
So
go,
if you can
bro.
agree that slavery was bad, and you can agree that after slavery, nothing was done to ameliorate the situation, and you can agree that the descendants of slaves have continually been denied economic opportunities as compared to the white counterparts, and you can agree that slavery benefited not only the government, but private entities, private ownership, then you can agree that banks, as private entities benefiting from slavery and continuing the process, do indeed owe slaves and the descendants of slaves reparations. You cannot say that a bank who was involved in the insuring of slaves, the selling and buying of slaves, and then eventually the owning of sharecroppers, of land, of all these things, and the vehicles by which loans and other economic tools are used to benefit certain communities, how those same banks still do not owe reparations to the descendants of slaves, how the government should not have, or how the government should have policies in place that, one, prevent redlining from happening, which they should, but they don't enforce it, and two, have systems and groups in place to make sure that people affected by redlining, which again can directly be tied to slavery and racism and oppression, how the government should have programs in place to make sure that that doesn't happen, and to give those same communities economic benefits that they were denied historically.
okay.
Like, it doesn't make sense that you can say that slavery was bad,
Oh, you
but
want
all of the
monologue,
effects of
bro?
slavery should not be included in reparations. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, so then I agree with the banks paying reparations for redlining, but again, observe it. My biggest thing is what I think is, if you put all of this together, all of these things, and present it to the government, it's just going to be a flat out no. I feel
So
like
we're
let's get one hurdle. Let's get slavery, Jim Crow paid, and then work on the other
Yeah,
things. It's
so
not.
Bell,
Y'all,
that
I don't know
absolutely
what
makes
made
no
y'all
sense
think. Y'all,
because
I
the
don't know.
Nah, let me
argument.
Y'all,
ask
I don't
Sleepy
know
a
what
question.
made
Let's
y'all
Sleepy.
It
think. I
would
don't know
be
why
an
we're all talking.
economic
Hold on, 1 second,
disaster.
1 second, 1 second. I don't know what made y'all think that the comments were going to get cut on at 29.8K taps. I said 30K taps to get the comments back on, and the goal right now is 40K. But we need to get 30K to get them back on. I don't know what made you think that 29.8K was going to get them cut back on. That was not going to happen. So let's make sure that we are tapping that screen and sharing the live, please, and thank you. We also need to be pushing the Venmo goal. The PayPal's linked in the bio. Support them goals. The goal right now is 190. We're going to go ahead and put a dent in that. It is 50 on Santoro head. Thank you.
So just so
Yeah,
that we're all on the same
I'm
page,
getting
you
you rich
haven't
out here,
really
my G.
broken
You're
you haven't
expensive.
really broken the link between redlining and slavery.
Make it
You just
100.
said that
$50
it
on
would
my
be
head is
harder to
disrespect.
convince white
Let me
people
ask you a question,
to
Sleepy. You spoke enough,
pay.
Sleepy.
I'm not.
Sleepy,
I'm
you spoke
responding to
enough. You
Bell, and then you
spoke
can
enough. You
speak.
spoke enough. You spoke
Yeah,
enough.
I'm responding to Bell because she said some things related to my point. As soon as I'm done the rebuttal, then you can go. All I wanted to say is that she did not break the link between redlining and slavery and racism and oppression. All she said was the government is not going to go for it. And to me, that doesn't invalidate my claim. All it does is move the goalpost.
So that's you
Now you
coming
can
up to
go,
the post looking
Santoro.
for a
I didn't
W?
mean to move the goalpost, but I cannot compare slavery, Jim Crow, to any of the other things on the list. I'm sorry.
I just want to know, how can he tell us, like,
Redlining is Jim Crow, though.
hundreds of years later, Banks, you said Banks used to keep the slave movement going, whatever was going on. That was there.
Sorry, do you understand that slavery was a form of economic control
All right, bro.
and
I
that
was
white
letting
people
whoever.
benefited
Hold on,
from
I
that
wasn't
economic
done.
control?
Sleepy. I wasn't done. What I was saying
Okay, let
was
him finish. Let
them banks,
Santoro finish. Let Santoro
them
finish because he's
banks
not
that
making
you
no
were saying
sense.
was
Go ahead and
practicing
Oh,
finish.
that's
redlining.
why I responded, but I
No,
apologize for
yeah, now
cutting
you're
you
right,
off.
Sleepy. I paused because somebody jumped in. I don't know who that was. But what I was saying was, if you saying that all these years later, how could you prove that all these years later, these people, this is a whole new generation later, how you could prove that those banks that was practicing redlining, but they wasn't paying for slaves to stay in, so that's not the same thing. You saying banks during slavery was
So you
insurance or
obviously
something to
didn't
do with.
understand the point. The point is that if
Now
we're
you just got
talking
creative and
about the
conflated the two.
government
That's what
versus
that was.
private entities, everybody in some way, shape, or form contributed to and benefited from slavery. If we're saying that these are banks and private entities, I'm saying that private entities also benefited from slavery. That was the
All right,
point of
so
my
how you know
statement.
those same banks benefited from slavery though?
How do
New
we
banks that
know?
open all types of stuff.
They were
I don't know
around.
if
Asking
you know, but
Sleepy. I'm
banks are
asking Sleepy.
required to keep documents related to incorporation, to
All right,
business
so what
practices,
banks?
all
So
of
what
that.
banks? So what banks do you know that was practicing redlining or
Oh,
have famous
so
redlining
one, I
cases?
didn't
Hold
come
on,
to this
Sleepy.
conversation
I'm
prepared
asking
to
you a
give you
question,
a
Sleepy.
list of banks, but if you want, we
Sleepy,
can
you
go
don't
on
gotta
to
give me a
Google and
list.
find it.
No, you don't gotta give me a list. I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
you can
like, if you
Google
know
it.
any.
You want me to Google it?
Yeah, you could Google it. I'm just saying, like, what banks that you know that was practicing redlining has something to do with ensuring slavery or keeping slavery going.
No.
The over
So,
talking,
Wait,
it gets to a
can I
point.
so
can I say that? Wait,
did
one
everybody
second
else
though.
understand the point? Because I don't think it's
Don't
important.
worry.
Nah, no, 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 no,
Don't
no.
worry.
They didn't because you were
The
saying a lot
over
of good
talk. The
words.
over
But all I
talking
heard
gets to a
was you
point.
conflating
And
and being
what
creative of
we'll get
tying.
back to y'all in a
You
second.
know what?
We'll
Can
get
I
back to you in a second. Andy, can I get your age and race, please?
43, and I'm I guess white.
Okay, and your thoughts on the topic.
Um, I would say I think it would be correct, but um, the payees would more than likely be the descendants of the slaveholders. But it's also multifaceted as well. Like corporations have gained from it as well. Like the Dutch West Indies Company was basically a public trade company at that time that benefited from things like that as well as like trading commodities as well. But things like that, you know.
Well, the pay you would be the American taxpayers. So that's what that would be.
I mean, to be fair, it should be like multifaceted as
It should
well.
just. We should just go ahead and take it out to taxes.
No, because a lot of the taxpayers wouldn't have been slaveholders to begin with, right?
Who cares?
What do you mean? Who cares?
Who cares that the American government facilitated this at the time, and the American government was funded by taxes at the time. So it should still be tax dollars going towards our retribution.
Yeah, that's not gonna work. That won't
Why
work
not?
because you're asking people that had no connection to that part of history at all.
They don't have they have a connection. They're taxpayers and they pay taxes to the American government. The American
Yeah,
government.
but
We have the same American government
their
that is the
forefathers that
same. I don't know
migrated
why you're talking while I'm talking. We have the
because I'm
same
just trying to make
American
sense.
government. We have the same American government that went ahead and facilitated slavery and slave labor and segregation and redlining. It is the same government that exists today. We did not switch governments. The government is the same. They're still funded by taxpayers. They were funded by taxpayers then. They're funded by taxpayers now. Why would we suddenly take the responsibility off of the taxpayers when the taxpayers participated in the enslavement of black people?
But they didn't.
They
Right?
did.
Majority didn't.
They pay
It's a
taxes. They pay taxes to a
the
government that's.
people that are descendants are a fraction of what the
I
American
don't care.
population
We're not
is.
talking about descendants. We're talking about the taxpayers.
Do you agree, Andy, that other industries besides the actual slave owners benefited from slavery? Things like textiles,
Oh, for sure. Actually,
transportation.
the Industrial Revolution was basically uh, spearheaded by basically the looms, the fabrication of cotton. At
Yeah,
least in England, right? And that's
yeah,
how they
and
got
then
their
because
industrial boom.
And because of slavery, because those other industries benefited and flourished, the rest of America
benefit black men so that you can, you know what I'm saying, take your
structure, education, all that
But
stuff,
there's a
right?
lot of, let's say, either other institutions that would say
So are you
insurance.
agreeing before you continue? I just want to be
Yes,
sure you're
I
saying yes.
do.
Okay.
I do. But this is also
Damn, what the fuck,
multifaceted.
W, bro? We ain't having a discussion, my nigga. Like, grow up, bro.
I understand that we're
You want
having
to
a
say, hey,
discussion,
look,
but we
I'm
need
right, right?
to.
Hey, I'm right, I'm
I
right.
understand
Okay.
that we're
That's
having a
not gonna do a
discussion, but
thing.
we
We
need
all
to
gonna
agree
forget
on
about you when this
premises
shit is
before we
over,
get to
bro.
a conclusion. I think that's
Okay,
just clear.
I'll put all the cards on the table as well. There's also insurance companies. Some of the first insurance companies out there benefited from it. They basically insured the slave voyages, right? Because a lot of them got shipwrecked, etc. So people made money that way, commodities, etc. So that in itself, and believe it or not, a lot of the African kingdoms as well would more than likely have to pay up as well
African
because
kingdoms. What?
What does that have to do with what we're talking about
they
now, which is reparations in the United
if
States?
it's
Like, whenever we
multifaceted,
have these conversations, you guys add in
You
a
keep
bunch of
talking
fluff.
multifaceted in America. Let's keep it in America. Let's keep it
Okay,
there because
so
now you're getting
you,
into topics that you are not familiar with and you are confusing yourself.
yeah,
So
I'm familiar with that.
you're
I know the
actually not.
I know the history. I
You're
know the history.
actually not. So let's make sure that we are staying off of it because you just brought up kingdoms and it wasn't even kingdoms. So let's make sure that we are sticking to the topic.
Well, if you can't
I
somewhat
think he's
acknowledge that,
talking.
It wasn't
then
that. So
if of course it was, of course
it
it was.
wasn't that.
It was an enterprise. They benefited from it as
It
well.
it wasn't.
So the
Well, who
idea
benefit?
that
Wait,
African.
1 second. Wait, 1 second. Who benefited from what?
It was multifaceted. Corporations, the Europeans benefited from it. Corporations did, and also the African kingdoms as
What
well.
African kingdoms benefited from slavery?
From Benin, Ouida, and
Benin, wait,
Benin and
wait,
Togo,
the
Ghana,
Benin tribe,
Ghana. Yes,
benefited from slavery. How? What benefit are you seeing? Are you seeing for them
they
from
had
that?
imposing, competing
Imposing
tribes.
and competing are not benefits; those are just
Yeah, they
words.
would fight with each other,
Imposing and competing are just
and they would
words.
have they would have gone
They're
under
not
slavery
benefits.
themselves, or they would have been wiped out
No, I need you to
within a.
know that's not a benefit. That's not a benefit, babe. Being put in a position to where you had to either give
They
some of
got
your
rich.
people.
How do you think they got rich?
Shut up, because this is exactly why I said that you should be staying away
Truth
from that
hurts.
topic because you are not familiar with it. That's exactly why I said what the fuck I just said. So you are trying to say that a tribe not being subject to eradication in exchange for giving away some of their people as a benefit is asinine to me. That is not a benefit. You're talking about people who are still in destabilized countries today. People who are still placed throughout different African countries and are subject to European, French and British rule today. What the fuck are we talking about? What was the benefit?
African kings, they dictated the actual trade
What
itself.
kings? What
Believe it or
kings?
not,
What
in
kings?
Ghana,
What kings? There was no Ghana.
in
There was no fucking Ghana. When did Ghana become a fucking country? You don't know. You don't know when Ghana
All
became a
right, can
country.
we?
There was no Ghana.
Yo, can we engage though, right quick? I want to talk to Sleepy
Okay,
right
but
quick.
No. You go on
No,
mute.
the
nigga.
Bight of
You go on
Biafra,
mute.
within Nigeria as well. That it
Who?
happened.
It's
Believe
my
it or not,
panel,
it's
nigga.
happened. It's horrible,
Who?
but it
What
happened.
king? What king?
Tons. And if you're talking about
You're just
Angola, it's
making
even
shit up.
worse.
That's the problem. You're just making shit up. You're just shouting out kings and kingdoms like this is fucking eels and escalators. This is not what that is. You don't know shit and you don't know about this topic.
In
That is why I said stay on the topic of America and stay on
academia, it's well
however
documented.
and stick on the multifaceted aspect of it being in America. Do not go to Africa because one, the reparations would not come from there. Secondly, you don't know shit about the history of the transatlantic slave trade or how it took place. So stay off that topic. Now we're getting back to the topic, which is in America, because you just established that you cannot provide any tangible evidence about your claims about the transatlantic slave trade benefiting African people in Africa.
I
Now let's get back
I
to this
can't.
motherfucking topic. Thank you.
I can't.
Yo,
I
Pete, you
can't.
know you my
Yeah, you
son,
can.
right? And you're
You
not
for
making
damn
me a
sure
very
can
proud
because you don't
parent
have the
right now.
In the
information. You don't have
In
the
the
information
BBC
to
archives, look up
You don't have the
Gatlin.
information to
It was
keep.
published about 20 years ago. It states exactly what I've told you.
Oh, you no, you. It's not saying exactly of anything that you're talking about because you're not talking about exactly shit. You have yet to say. You have yet to say.
I just threw all
You
the
have
cards.
yet to substantiate anything that you fucking said.
Multifaceted. Everybody's hands was dirty on this one.
And you have
Okay?
yet to substantiate anything that you said.
Between the Americans, between
You
the
have yet to
corporations,
substantiate a single claim.
it was a multifaceted enterprise.
Shut up. Go back to the
quicker
topic
you know
of
it, the better it
America.
is. And I'm saying is that yes,
don't-
you guys do deserve it, but also we have to look at all the contributing factors to
No,
it.
we're looking at the contributor factors in America because that's the only thing that you could possibly even understand. So we're going to go back to America. Thank you. Now, Santora, what the hell were you saying?
So when did it end? Like didn't Civil War just
Go on mute. Y'all, it's $40.
Civil War not end?
Y'all, it's $40 on Andy Head. Let's get him up out of here. The Venmo is on the screen. It's $3.99. So support the Venmo.
Did the
Support
Civil War
PayPal.
not
The
end?
PayPal is linked in the bio. The Venmo is right there on the screen. Thank you so much. It's $40 on his head. It's $50 on Santora head. Santora, what were you finna say?
Did this,
A little offended. $50 on my head.
You're
is
worth $50. What? You're worth $50.
$50 on my head is disrespect.
So what? Were
I'm
you finna say?
upset. I'm upset.
Okay. Well, just be upset.
$50 on my head is disrespect.
Oh, well, that's what that is.
But it's cool.
Sound
But it's
cheap.
cool though.
Also, I just did a quick Google search.
Lady
and
P, hold
Wells
on. Let
Fargo
me tell P
and-
something. P, but it's cool. I'm glad I can help you out with your meal for this week though. So it's cool.
Great. So let's make
Go ahead,
sure.
Stevie.
So
What you
do
about to tell me about JP Morgan and all that?
No, so Wells Fargo and Bank of America were listed as banks that benefited.
All right, so let
from
me ask you a
slavery.
question. When did slavery end? Hold on. Because Bell, you was right.
Slaves
I don't
were-
like that you like gave him the point.
Slavery never ended.
Wait, what'd I
It's
do?
Constitutionally.
Bro, when did no. I'm not saying you
It-
did anything bad. When was it abolished? Let's just say that, Sleepy. When was it abolished?
slavery was never abolished. It's constitutionally supported.
Now you're exactly right.
He's just chatting, bro. He's just chatting. All right, so when was redlining formalized? Can you at least answer that?
When was it formalized?
Yes, simple question.
Don't
Don't look it up.
I'm
If you
not
don't know,
sure.
it's cool. I'm not you. I'm not trying to get a win here. If you don't know,
I just said
you're gonna
that
say
I'm
things
not
that I don't know.
sure.
Okay,
What
boom,
part
it
of
was in
that did you not
1930.
understand the first
All right,
time
it's
that
cool.
I said
I'm just
it?
letting you know because I know you got an ego, and I don't want you in here feeling like, oh,
It's
he
not
got
about
me.
ego. It's about having
Yo,
a
Sleepy,
fully
can I
formed
talk, bro,
thought.
please? Because you're gonna say things that I don't know. So
yeah.
it's cool.
So if
like
you
I'm
stop
saying,
taking shots,
Sleepy,
then
bro.
sure.
All I'm saying is this, bro. I didn't take a shot. All I'm saying.
Yeah, you did. You said
It's
something
cool,
about
bro.
me having an ego when we're supposed to be having a discussion.
That's not a shot. Yo, listen,
Yes,
bro.
yeah,
Let's
it
not get
100% is.
sidetracked.
Stop throwing
Let's not get
subs.
sidetracked. Let's not get sidetracked.
I'm so sorry
So
that
why
you're
are
only
we
worth
saying- so
$50.
why
That's
we-
not my
all
fault,
right.
nigga.
So listen,
That's
all
not
I'm
my
saying
fault,
is
nigga.
this, right?
Say something worth note.
I got you saying the N word.
Let's watch them. Let's watch them
He came
N words on the panel though.
He
No
came up
shade,
here all
y'all.
conservative. I got him talking like a nigga. That's what I like.
You need
Yeah,
to watch
that's the
your
way
mouth.
that I talk.
Yeah.
You need to watch
Didn't
your
you
mouth.
just drop the
All right,
N-word
sir.
too?
All right, sir.
Are
I
we
got
gonna
you. I
check
got you.
in?
No, but I came in here ghetto. You came in here trying to sound all
Oh,
clean
I don't
cut.
ascribe
And now I
to
got
being
you in it.
ghetto.
But listen, let's get back to the topic. So redlining was formalized in the 30s, my guy. So you say
Hey,
slavery wasn't abolished or whatever. Slavery, we're gonna say slavery ended in let's say the 1860s or so. Those are decades
It
apart.
didn't.
So
It didn't, but okay.
All right, so bro, let's just
Damn.
focus, bro. Let's just focus. Was it
No,
legal to
I
have
am
a slave?
focused. I'm saying that what
was
you
it
said is
legal to
incorrect.
have a
Slavery
slave in the
didn't end.
United States after the 1860s? Yes, or no?
we did.
It was legal to have a slave after the 1860s.
It
Yes,
was
it
legal
was.
to enslave people
To have a slave in the
after the 1800s. Yes. If you break a
Prove that to me,
law,
bro.
the government has the right to enslave you. Go read the Constitution.
I'm not talking about going to jail. All right, the reparations that y'all talking about, because now you're all over the place. What reparations are you talking about? You talking about for the people that slaves and was getting their ass whipped and all that? That's what you talking about?
I'm
That was
talking
getting
about
cracked
mass
behind the back and all
incarceration
that?
too. I'm talking about
Come on,
any
man.
system
You know what you was doing
that was
earlier.
put
So
in
why did you
place
bring
to
up?
oppress
So why did you
people.
bring up earlier to Bell's point? You see how he running, Bell? That's why you should have stayed on your
Who's
point.
running?
He running from
Who's
your point,
running?
Bell. He's
You
running
asked
from
me
her
a
point.
question and
Why
I
did you bring
answered
up?
it.
She said she felt like the people from slavery. Not the fucking slavery in your head. You go to jail,
Yes,
you're
and
a
I
slave.
responded to
Bro,
her
can I
point,
respond,
and
bro?
then
We
you
gave you the
asked
floor.
me a
You was in here
question about what
monologuing, my
I'm
guy.
talking
Yo,
about,
P, can you?
and I'm responding
P,
that I'm
I'm an
including
expensive
the
op, P. Can
descendants
you at
of
least treat me with some respect
slavery,
and let me
as
get to
well as
talk?
the people impacted
Expensive.
by systems put in place by the
Sleepy
government
got
to
the
oppress
talk.
people.
Sleepy got the
I'm
talk.
asking. Y'all
Sleepy
answer your question directly.
Hold on.
Sleepy got
What's
the
going
talk,
on
man.
here?
P,
Let's
respectfully.
pause the over talking, y'all. When I get my live, take it down.
P, respectfully though. P, respectfully. Let him talk.
Okay, well, go
AOP,
ahead
if
and
he's gonna
talk.
ask me a question,
We
I'm
let
gonna
him
give a
talk. No,
fully
but I didn't get
formed
to finish though,
answer.
bro. What I'm saying is you
You
ran
asked
from
me a
Bell
question
Point.
and
You
I wasn't
came
done
in
giving
here.
my
Yo, my
answer.
nigga, shut up, bro. That's
Or
serious,
what are you
bro.
gonna
I'm
do?
trying to
What are you gonna
talk, bro.
do?
What
Y'all
you
need to
gonna
watch
threaten
these
your
N
phone now, bro? I
words.
can't do nothing to you, bro. You gonna threaten your
You
phone?
can't do nothing, so shut the fuck
Exactly. So
up.
listen, what I'm
Okay,
saying
let me
right now,
go.
you're cursing on
This
P
is what
Live. You're
we're
gonna
gonna
get your
do.
live taken down.
We're gonna do
So
this
what I'm saying is
actually.
this, right? Bell Point was she was talking about strictly slavery, and you brought up the whole how when you conflated the banks with how slavery was benefited from the banks and this, that, and the third. He was originally talking about slavery that Bell was talking about, which was the
The show
whips and the
time is not. The
chains
show
and
time is
the
not 3 minutes.
slave trade.
The show time is a minute and 30. I just did not change the minutes.
All right, it's cool. So anyway, I don't need all that time anyway. All I'm saying is he's running from a point. Now he's going into mass incarceration. I don't want to chase you all over the room, bro. I want to keep you focused on that one point. So when you was basically saying when Bell point was she feel like slaves deserve reparations. You said how does it not thing when they benefited from the slave trade and then years later that same bank did the redlining so those both people can. I want you to engage in that. I'm not gonna beat you on your hands tied behind your back. I just want you to engage in your original point so we could go back and forth. Because I could say what I'm about to say right now, which is debunking you, but I want you to engage with me. So just focus on the slave trade and the banks benefiting from the slave trade. You wasn't talking about mass incarceration. You talking about the slave trade. So when did the slave trade end? Can you take him off mute? Because Bell was correct the whole entire time. You can take him off mute.
Yeah. So one, I answered Belle's question directly. She asked why. I asked her directly why victims of redlining shouldn't be included in reparations, and then I went down that logic train. You then asked me a question: who should get reparations? Is
Meows.
it
Is
just
this
the descendants?
observant?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, go
You
ahead.
then asked me who should get reparations, and I told you not just the descendants of slavery, but the people who were impacted by systems of oppression, including mass incarceration. If you weren't able to keep up with what I'm saying, then just ask me to clarify. That's all you got to do. Now, can you restate the specific question that you want me to answer? Because all I heard was you yapping and saying that I wasn't paying attention, and clearly you couldn't even restate my point correctly. Can you unmute him so that I can get the exact question and then I'll respond?
You just flat out lied. I didn't ask you any of those questions. The only reason I brought up banks and the only reason I brought up banks, I asked a question. You remember this question? I said, name me a
That's
bank.
your
Yo,
question.
bro, come on, son. Can you gonna let me talk, bro? Please. I know
Yeah,
you
I'm gonna
want to
let you
sound
talk. Just
smart.
ask your question and I'll respond.
But what I was
Like
saying
it's
was,
clear you're not paying attention and you're not keeping
no,
up, and
you
that's
wasn't paying.
fine.
You just made up some shit that I asked. I ain't even asked.
No, I did not.
And you didn't bring up mass
You asked me
incarceration. You
who should
conflated the
receive
banks. You
reparations, and I
conflated the
included
banks
everybody.
redlining
Okay.
with banks
Can you mute him?
benefiting. All right, bro. Let me.
Can you mute him for a second? You asked me who should get reparations, and I'm telling you, not only the descendants of slavery, but people who are victims of fucking oppression, of systems of fucking oppression. That is my answer. That is separate for the response that I gave Belle. You are trying to conflate what I told her in response to the claim that she made before I came up onto the panel with what you're asking me now. So now get to your specific question so that I can respond to it.
That they do, right? Now you trying to trick me into an argument that yo, P, you don't gotta get along with me, but can you keep it real, bro? Did I ever ask him who deserved reparations? I didn't even get to talk to him. P, just keep it real.
I don't know what y'all was asking each other, quite honestly.
I didn't
I
ask
don't
you
even
that.
know
You
what
could
his
run.
question
You could pull his
was.
tape back and run it back because he came here and directly responded to Bell. So I never asked him who deserved reparations. He trying to run away from his original point because he see it's getting somewhere. His point was Bell said. He said, you said, I want to know why you feel like people who got redlined don't deserve slavery. Bell basically says, like, she said her point about, it's basically a malpractice of some sort or whatever. She didn't say those words, but that's basically what she was saying. You proceeded to conflate it with banks benefiting from the slave trade, and those same banks were doing the redlining. P, am I lying, bro?
I know he mentioned the banks that benefited from slavery and then they're participating in redlining. He was drawing the
That's exactly
correlation
what I just said. Exactly. And that's the
the
only
two.
point I'm trying to get you to stick to.
So
you said that's why
what's
the
your
red
question
line.
to that?
I want him to come off mute because I don't want to beat him with his hands tied.
So what's your question to that?
I don't have a question. I had a statement. I was going to correct him and basically tell him Bell was correct, that those redlining people don't deserve reparations. Now, do they deserve compensation or lawsuits or things of that sort?
Sure, because that was wrong, but they don't deserve reparation.
Like, he doesn't understand what reparations is. It's not just to ameliorate the negative economic impact. It's to ensure that it doesn't fucking happen again. Like, reparations is more than just getting money and getting recompense. Like, I think that's what you're missing in the conversation.
The two then. You wasn't talking about that.
Saying that people who are victims of redlining don't deserve reparations, and I'm saying it falls into it. It is a system of oppression used by people to benefit. It is directly linked to Jim Crow and slavery. It falls into the category.
What is reparations, bro? Because maybe you might be wrong. Maybe you might be right. Maybe.
Okay, actually, hold on. If you can get back to the screen real quick, because I don't want you to disconnect while I'm doing the commercial. You can do what you were doing now. And so y'all, let's make sure that we are tapping the screen, please and thank you. Let's make sure we are tapping the screen, please and thank you. We need to be at 40K taps. We're not at 40K taps in 10 minutes. The comments will, in fact, get shut off. It's 40 of us in here. If we all tap the screen, we will be at 40K taps. So let's make sure that we go ahead and get there. It is 50 on Santoro Head and 40 on Andy Head. Let's make sure that we are supporting the Venmo goal and get them up out here. You can crowdfund to get them up out the room. Let's go ahead and push these goals and make sure that we are in fact supporting the live. Let's also support the PayPal. The PayPal's linked in the bio. Venmo is on the screen. Let's also get on the screen. Let's also get these on the backup page because they did clip our main page until tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. So we are going to be on the backup page until then. So let's make sure that we are in fact top of screen supporting the live and doing the things until then. Everybody, let's make sure that we are all following me as well. I'm pretty sure all 40 of y'all don't follow me. I need y'all to make sure that y'all follow me. Thank you.
Right here, because Bell's point was basically about them being paid. So if you just basically talking about shit that happen again, they should be ensured it don't happen again. I agree with you. Is that all you were saying when you were talking about? Because Bell was talking about payouts. I agree if you're talking about they should be ensured it didn't happen again. I totally agree. We don't got to argue then. Is that what you were saying? Because it sounded like you was coming from Bell. When Bell was talking about payouts. I think that's what Bell was talking about.
Well, what was Bell talking about?
I don't understand how this is unclear. So, I don't, what is your specific question?
You're confusing yourself, Sleepy.
No, I'm not confusing myself. You're trying to get a gotcha by trying to attack a point. So what point do you disagree with? And then we can discuss it.
No, I can't disagree if that's not what you meant because you brought up an extra point.
What point? Restate my points and then point out what you disagree with.
I'm not doing
and then we can talk about it.
So
you saying that Bell was right when all I did was connect. Okay, let me know when you're done.
The disagreement is that Santoro believes that people who are victims of redlining should not be getting reparations. However, they should get.
I didn't say that. That wasn't my point.
That's exactly what the hell you're not gonna gaslight me.
I was defending.
You might
Bell's
gaslight everybody else on this panel. You might gaslight everybody else on
please?
this panel, but you did not finna gaslight me. You just said it while you were
bro,
on Showtime.
No, but do you hear me not speak on Bell's point?
No, he just said it.
What I said?
Just said that.
He said what he said was no reparation but compensation.
That's what the fuck he just said. That's exactly what the fuck I just said that he said. Y'all gonna make me curse on my own live. Do not make me get my live taken down. I just said that is what the fuck he said. He just said that people who are victims of redlining are not deserving of reparations. They're deserving of compensation. First and foremost, compensation is part of reparations. It's one of the 5 tenets. So I need you to understand that reparations are deserved to people who are victims of redlining. But anywho, regardless, I'm not the one that's arguing right now. The point is that Sleepy says that people who are victims of redlining deserve them. He says that they don't, but they deserve compensation. Even though compensation is a part of reparations. But yeah, so that is what the fuck he said. We're not going to try to tell me that's not what the hell he said. Doing that's exactly what the hell he just said.
Thank you, Lady P.
Hold on, no, P. I see the disconnect.
Then you're going to repeat what he said and tell me that that's not what he said. What?
Yo, bro, I didn't say that. I said that wasn't my point. I had no dog in that fight. I literally have no pain.
You literally just said that you didn't say it. Now you're changing it to that wasn't your point.
All right, so I misspoke. That wasn't my point. I came in here defend. I came in here defending Belle's point about when you
That's the
tried to come
problem.
in.
Stop trying to say white
Oh
see
my
women.
God, bro!
That's the
Can I
problem.
please
You
speak,
ain't
bro?
too busy trying
You
to say
get
white see
Showtime
women
and all
that you
that.
fucking
As soon as
over
I
and
talk, I get
stumbling and
overtalked
messing
and
up your
muted and
points.
all that, bro.
Stop trying to say white see women and save yourself.
Come on, bro. Like I was saying, bro, I was basically going against your point of how you conflating the two. So when I said that, I mentioned that in passing. You're right, I did say that. But what I was saying, do you know what a point is? That wasn't my point. My point was whatever you was arguing against Bell with was incorrect. That's all, my G.
Yeah, so what was incorrect about it?
All of it. All of it.
Not you, Bell. I need Santoro to restate my claim and then point out what's
For the
logically
fourth
inconsistent.
time, all right, your conflation of your logic of why the people who were redlined deserve the reparations, them same reparations, deserve reparations. Your
Okay.
whole logic of it.
Why?